Superheroes in media are mostly talked about in TV shows, movies, comics, and video games. But back in 2009, video games weren't mainstream. So back in August 2008, when Rocksteady announced Batman Arkham Asylum and we saw this trailer, hype and doubt slowly started to spread when Mark Hamill, who played Luke Skywalker from the Star Wars movie, and Kevin Conroy, who has played Batman for many years, more hype was being put into this game. Then on August 25th, 2009, Batman Arkham Asylum was released to the public. Like usual, I'll be splitting this video into 5 categories: presentation, gameplay, visuals and designs, story, and final thoughts. The Arkham games. Specifically, Arkham Asylum. Batman Arkham Asylum is, well, great. It's full of detail and characters, which I'll talk more about later. Arkham Asylum is a simple game and has a simple plot. When Batman captures the Joker and is sent to Arkham Asylum, Joker then plans an escape and a riot. Batman then has to navigate through Arkham Island and stop Joker. It's simple, like I said, and that's what makes it great. Development started back in May 2007 with Rocksteady and Square Enix as head in development, with a group that was 40 people, which later expanded to 60. There was a lot of stuff that was cut from Arkham Asylum. One of those are a word from executive Paul Denning, who said Batman's attacks would time and seamlessly attack as the music plays, and when the music stops, the enemy rises from the shadows and come to Batman. Although these ideas were scrapped, it still has what most of the combos and attacks felt inside Arkham Asylum. Rocksteady also planned the Batmobile missions, and even though we got them in Arkham Knight, they were scrapped. Gameplay is just great. I just want to say that the combos are smooth and seamless. A lot of people say that it's just button mashing, and to an extent it kinda is. But if I had to say my full opinion, I disagree. It starts off with just square and triangle depending on what you play. But later you then have to counter more attacks and more time of the use of the counters. And you also unlock upgrades from Wayne Tech upgrades, like knockdowns and takedowns for both combat and stealth. And the reason for this is simple. Enemies, they start off weak and basically nothing, but as the game goes on, more enemies come, like enemies with electric sticks, so you have to go behind them and attack. And some enemies are even required to be cape stun, and the knockdowns and takedowns with enemies who take longer to knock down. The takedowns are faster, and the solution. Arkham Asylum is filled with puzzles, ranging from scanning DNA to find a truth with Detective Vision, and for people who like puzzles, Riddler trophies are just for you. From riddles to opening doors and breaking vents, but something I hate about Arkham Asylum is that there's a lot of backtracking. Once you go to the objective, the next one will be where you came from. Stealth is something this game shines at. You can tell it takes inspiration from games like Splinter Cell and Dishonored. It's not easy. You have to drop down silently and then crouch down then silently, take down or knock down smash. You also have vantage points like gargoyles and buildings. You can also use your explosive gel on weak points to blow up and knock down the enemies, or distract them with a batarang or hit them with the batarang and knock down them, which you can glide down and ground takedown them. Movements in Arkham Asylum are great. Animations for the running and gameplay are smooth and seamless. You can tell they added a lot of effort and soul. There's also the gliding, which is your main movement, so make sure you get used to it. Gliding in general is fun, not as good as superpowers like in Infamous or Spider-Man, but it's still fun to glide and travel. The free roam is not much, but honestly, I like it feeling like that, when you're stuck on an island and you feel trapped and imprisoned. Finally, boss fights, which like Arkham Origins is still great. You start off with the mini boss fight, the Titan. After having no clue of what to do, he malfunctions from not enough testing, and Joker does more testing. You later find Scarecrow, which I really like, for before fists are thrown, Batman starts coughing and hallucinations appear. Sometimes same with his eyes, but in the bosses, all you have to do is hide and do platforming, and even our combat. Then later, you have Bane, which you have to dodge his attacks and he'll hit his big dumb head. You'll have to do that 3 times. You fight Scarecrow again, then you have Killer Croc, who you have to sneak through and he'll jump and chase after you. To stop him, you'll have to throw a batarang at him, and eventually he'll fall in the water. You then have to fight Poison Ivy by dodging her attacks and then throwing batarangs at her kaiju-sized plant. Lastly, you have the Titan Joker. The reason I think I like the boss fights is because they all require you to do something, like Bane dodging his attacks, and same with Ivy, Scarecrow the platforming and hider, and Titan Joker with well, I'll get into that later. Visuals and designs are really what makes a game pop out. Like Grand Theft Auto Vice City is really full of neon lights and color, and there's a great representation of Miami. But when you have a game like The Last of Us, which is dark and gritty, it's full of cobwebs and broken buildings and must and dirty stuff. And Batman Arkham Asylum, which is more of a dark and gritty, has dark buildings and abandoned cells with rocks and stuff. There's clearly a lot of detail that goes into Arkham Asylum, and feels like where it's set. Character designs make a great representation of the comics. Batman's suit has a logo and a belt, and overall looks great. Same with the Joker with its purple and green, and same with other characters like Harley Quinn, Bane, and Killer Croc. Same with the designs that are more newer, like Gordon, and the new characters like Frank Bowles and Eddie Burlow. The gameplay, visuals, and cutscenes are great, especially for 2009. They're full of life, like the animations are so fluid and seamless. Same thing with the hard-hitting and brutal combat. When you go from one enemy to another, it's fluid and not leg leak. And the cutscenes are full of light, the gritty structures and background with the great character designs and use of lighting and shading. And when you mix it all to one piece, it looks awesome and great. The visuals themselves are great. Like I said before, the great use of color and lighting and shading is great, and the comic book aesthetic mixed with realism, and even the early designs are great. Like this version, the Batmobile and Titan Joker and Ivy and etc. are all great. Even the simple stuff like hiding behind something or the gadgets and the tab you see at the bottom of the right and the vantage points, they even have a nice art. Same thing with the Wing Tech Upgrades arc. It takes inspiration from the comics and look great. Story is undoubtedly the most important part of media, or really anything, you know what I mean? But back what I was saying, when a game has bad gameplay but good stories like Red Dead Redemption 2 or Vice City, those are mainly the reason people still love those games. And when Paul Dini was writing this, they seemed to be great. He wrote Batman the Animated Series. Well, enough talking and more action. Joker gets captured by Batman, putting up not much of a fight and surrendered pretty easily. Being suspicious, Batman continues to follow Joker and in quick detail, all the Blackgate prisoners have been transferred to Arkham Asylum. Joker then takes out some guards and sends some of his guards, and this is where we get our first gameplay sequence. Harley Quinn then locks up Batman, and for a second, it looks like there's no escape until Batman finds a door to lead him out. Then we navigate through Arkham Asylum until we find out Harley has kidnapped Gordon. We eventually explore enough until we find Victor Zsasz, who shows us a good representation of the Predator gameplay. We didn't get a message from Harley surprisingly telling us Joker's location. We go to there, and when we find the Joker, we corner him and he releases a Titan. Joker later finds out that Dr. Young, who is a doctor who tested the Titan formula, didn't do enough testing. We then encounter Harley, who drops a freaking elevator on us. After that's done, we get our first start to the stealth section, which is when we find ourselves in a dead end and find Edward Nygma, aka the Riddler, and gives us a riddle. After we solve his riddle, we finally get out of the hellhole that is Arkham Asylum, and we get a great view of the botanical gardens and Arkham Mansion. After enjoying the great view, we then get an alert from the Batmobile that tells us Joker's goons are vandalizing our Batmobile. We then find Gordon's DNA from his tobacco thingamajig, whatever it's called. We then pick up some explosive gel and then track Gordon to a dead end. And a little Easter egg, people think that over here is Jason Todd. We then search for an entrance till we find a weak wall to use our explosive gel, and we find ourselves in intensive treatment and use our stealth and predator skills to take out Joker's goons and rescue a few doctors who tells us the location of Dr. Young, Chen, and Comiskey. We then hear this from Joker, and we then find the objects around us move, and Batman has red eyes that makes him look like Superman with Batman's suit. We then open the body bags and face Scarecrow, who we beat by shining light into his face, and once we think we got some free time, Bane comes out of nowhere. We beat his big dumb head after Bane. We then follow the Dead Man's Point into the Arkham Asylum Batcave Batman built for emergencies like this. We then get into the Batcave and get the Batclaw. We go that way, and then that way, and then that way, when we then go to the Arkham Mansion to find Dr. Young's research, which we then find out that she was working with the Joker, not knowing that it was him. And after seeing the potential issues it has, she backed out, which is why Joker has it up for her. After walking down a really long hall, which then turns into the alley that Batman's parents were killed, then we turn into young Bruce and experience Bruce when his parents died. After finding out that it was the fear toxin, we face Scarecrow Ben, but this time he's more smarter and annoying. And after shining light onto his head again, we later drop a bell to get down and find Zaz holding Dr. Young hostage. And after knocking out Zaz, Dr. Young is safe, and would be such a betrayal if she Harley later taunts us by holding Warden Sharp hostage and sends her goons. After beating up her goons, we then track Warden Sharp's DNA that leads us to a medical facility when we find Poison Ivy and then save Warden Sharp. We then unlock the cryptographic sequencer and see Harley unlock Ivy's cell, and we track down Harley. And we do this mini game / puzzle, which is fun, but back to the point. We learned that Ivy has the spores required to create an antidote, but won't give them, and instead we have to travel to Croc's lair in the sewer and get the crap scared of us. And I'm not lying, Killer Croc is not even hard, he's just scary. Not his designs, just the adrenaline that pumps in your veins. Afterwards, Batman recovers the necessary spores and subdues Croc before returning to the Batcave, but can only synthesize one dose of the antidote before Ivy's plants breach the cave and destroy his equipment and tech. Batman returns to the botanical gardens and defeats Ivy, hosting her kaiju-sized plant. The Joker announces that the preparations for his party are finally complete, and Batman travels to the Arkham Asylum Visitor Center, and surprise, we see Joker's goons. But wait, that's not right. Much better. We navigate through the center to confront him, and the Joker reveals that he has recaptured Gordon and tries to shoot him with a Titanfield dart. Batman leaps to Gordon's defense, and the shot is instead taken to Batman, and Batman attempts to resist the change, and an upset Joker takes an overdose of Titan formula, mutated into a massive monster. Joker then sends a message to Gotham saying, we then make our way to a spaceship arena on the building's rooftop, and then Joker challenges Batman to a fight as Titan-included monsters in front of news helicopters. Batman refuses to transform, uses the antidote on himself, and defeats the Titan-affected Joker and his henchmen. In the aftermath, those affected by the Titan begin to revert to normal, including the Joker, who is taken into custody as police officers retake the asylum. Batman overhears a call about a crime led by Two-Face in progress and flies back to Gotham City in the Batwing. In a post-credit scene, a crate of Titan formula is shown floating in the ocean near the asylum when a hand surfaces and grabs it, who's either Croc, Scarecrow, or Bane, which is great use in retelling some of the story. I thought the story here was really good and impactful. The deaths matter, and it was really dark and gritty, which is what Batman is supposed to be. He's a crime fighter, not Peppa Pig. We got plenty of great new stuff like characters and designs, and same with gameplay. This gameplay alone inspired superhero games like Infamous, Prototype, and Spider-Man. My final thoughts on Batman Arkham Asylum is great. And no, I know what you're thinking, this is not sponsored by Rocksteady. I just think that this game is really great. I definitely recommend this game to action-adventure fans and open-world fans, or even people who are looking for a game to play and are just bored. But this game is not all good. After you finish the game, there's not much to do. You have the combat challenges and Riddle Trophy, and that's it mostly. I mean, you can collect special tapes and stuff, but that's really it. There's also some bugs in the game that can be really annoying, and once I got legged out one time, but it's not really like a full-on blown bug like in Arkham Origins. And while looking back on Origins, this game is so much better. There's a lot of bugs that I forgot to talk about in Origins, but at least I can get them out now. There's also many problems with this game, and I don't know if this is just me, but when I counter, sometimes it just doesn't work. For what reason as well? The combos, which are hands down great, but sometimes I would attack and it would not work. Same on the Scarecrow and Killer Croc boss, and I would get caught from when I was in Scarecrow's view, and Killer Croc would sometimes come out of nowhere, which is the whole point. Yeah, but sometimes I would throw the batarang at him, and it sometimes would not work. Sometimes he'll pop out straight after I hit him with the batarang. But apart from that, there's not much problems I have left with this game. And well, yeah, Batman Arkham Asylum, great with some flawed problems, and yeah. Hopefully this video does well, and I really appreciate if you guys could like and subscribe. If you can tell my voice, I seem a little sick, and I don't know, maybe I am sick, but well, yeah. See you guys later. Peace, y'all.